I met a couple who did this job with whom I got along well. They took pictures of me. I was contacted by a first production because I hadn't really sanctified the intimate. I hadn't put any particular meaning into my security. It was just a fun thing, so it didn't bother me. One thing led to another, and I started filming for more and more productions. Then at some point I told myself, go on, this is going to be my profession.
Would you say that you have to really love the style to be able to do porn?
I would say it's a plus. It's like having a third living language when you want to work, you see. But it's not a requirement. You can totally be an average actress. I think of an actress at one time who was very successful, but who was frigid. But frigid, you know, like Frigidus. We lived together for a while in the United States, and she nearly made a disgusted face when I told her. We only had one room in our apartment. And I told her, I'm going to bed now. One day she understood, in fact, that I was literally masturbating daily. Every time I told her I was going to bed, she would make that little face. Even though she was a porn actress, but I think she didn't like sex. She liked the money that sex brought her. She liked the quality of life that sex provided her. She liked being a princess. She liked being looked at. She liked being the most beautiful. But she probably hadn't yet met the man who would open all the doors. She was clear she was not suffering, not for a single second.
In fact,
I've kind of always done the same thing. I was quite bored with the lesbian stuff. I really like women, but I haven't had enough relationships with women in my personal life to appreciate them in my professional life. And despite what people think, many porn actresses are very straight, but do gay scenes. Thus, the desire is completely absent. We are a bit lost facing this. Well, we do what we have to do. It has rarely been a source. Never, in fact, a source of great pleasure.
What is the salary for a top actress in France and the United States?
Remember, there is a statute of limitations for the tax office. We're talking about things that go back a little bit. You can only go back 5 years. So basically, the salary is multiple sources of income. Obviously, there are the scenes themselves. When we go on a shoot, we are paid by the scene. When acting in a movie with a role that requires staying on set for several days, it adds up and can result in a small package deal. But basically, in fact, I wouldn't move for less than 1,500 euros for the day. Whether I have a push-in scene or not, even if I come just for comedy, in fact, I could be somewhere else doing a push-in scene. So for me, it was 1,500 a day. No matter what I do, that's how it is. For the scenes, it's normal. And so after, depending on the practices, obviously, the more demanding it is, the more expensive it is. There is a practice in this case that I liked, but, well, we're not going to do it every day. It's the double penetration, where I had set a price at 5,000 euros to not do it very often. So it's cool, I didn't do it too much. There are webcams. Today there are paid pages like OnlyFans and Mime. So there are a lot of sources of income. And not all actresses are equal. I believe that nowadays, a talented and intelligent actress can comfortably make 10,000 euros per month.
Would you know how many men you've slept with in the
course of your life? No, I've probably slept with a lot of men. I don't know. There have been more prosperous periods than others. A lot. A fork. Big ladle, huh? I had a very fast year, a year of celibacy. I clearly consumed a lot, whether it was on the shoots or in my private life. I counted with how many different partners I had slept that year. I had worked a lot. No, I had filmed a lot. I was a bit freewheeling. I was recovering from a breakup. Well, so 179, wow. Yeah, I was scared. No, me too. I thought to myself, but that's nonsense. It makes no sense. Because I also thought to myself, well, that there weren't any. One that had particularly marked me. Yes, they all marked me a little bit. No, you're talking.
I'm considering the MST sequel. Is there strict follow-up on that?
No, we pass everything and anything around. No, I'm kidding. It's checked more frequently abroad compared to France. The example of Hungary, which is still a major epicenter of the pig industry, where, in short, there are reference laboratories. You must go to specific laboratories and avoid others. In this case, because the results are not falsifiable. They also have a centralization system. For example, I'm still on the list, even though I haven't been working for some time now. This Tuesday, at 11:15, an actress or an actor, we don't know, tested positive for chlamydia. So all the tests that were done before this date at that time are no longer valid. So everyone must get retested in order to be able to present themselves for filming. And it's highly respected because we have agents abroad who work for the well-being of the actors and actresses and who will not send an actress or an actor on a shoot without having beforehand verified the test of the planned partner. That's their job. Now, obviously, it has its flaws. We're not safe from our partner having taken their test on Monday morning, going to a naughty party on Monday evening, and shooting with us on Wednesday and passing something on to us. It's a matter of trust, and it's a matter of common sense, and a matter of professionalism. Now, to be clear, if it happens once, the person is seriously blacklisted because we all have a blacklist. This is one of the things that can quickly get you out of the business. It's not forgiven or forgivable. In France, it's not as well regulated because we have this famous medical secrecy that we can't get lifted. We are trying to create a union, an association. We've attempted various forms and visited the Ministry of Health. We tried to be able to centralize our tests because we had, for example, in 2012, a syphilis epidemic in France where there was a stoppage of filming for 4 months. That happens very frequently. The slightest hesitation, there is a stoppage of filming, and it can be worldwide. It has already happened that worldwide, there was no filming for 6 months because there was a disease and it spread very quickly, and that's it, everything stops.
Have you ever experienced dangerous situations in the porn industry?
I experienced a situation on my very first shoot where I found myself alone with an actor who wanted to take advantage of the situation. But then it's not inherent to the girl's door, it's inherent to men's behavior. I'm 18, 19 years old. I arrive on my first shoot. They send an actor to pick me up at the station because the shooting conditions were like that. He was available. He said, "I'll go, you're filming." It happens. Shoots can be messy sometimes. These days, for ethical reasons, a designated person handles the runs, as we call it.
The runs.
An actor arrives at the station, takes me to my hotel, and imposes himself there. "You came for that, so no." "Yes, you came for that little one." He puts a finger in my panties. He takes a bedside table on the end of the story, that's all. But because it's someone who misunderstood, who thought they perceived a message simply from my presence, and that it's a man's mistake, it's not a mistake due to porn, the world of porn. So yes, he tells me, if you came here, it's because you're looking for something. Yes, something that I will find in 2 days in front of a camera with a predetermined partner who...
Is not.
You what?
I wanted your opinion on a category in porn, which I find quite nasty. It's pre-go. It's sex with pregnant women. A kid is still indirectly involved in the situation.
Well, indirectly in the couple. Later...
He can watch the video and say, but I was there.
That's not ideal. It's understandable that a pregnant woman facing uncontrollable body changes feels the need to embrace her sexuality by wearing makeup, beautiful lingerie, filming herself, and sharing sexy photos to maintain her confidence and allure. Now, clearly, without the air with someone who is not the dad, for a purely lucrative purpose, for platforms that will distribute this to the greatest number, I admit that I would not pass judgment, but personally, it's not something I could
do. Does doing porn create an addiction to desire? To do it over and over again?
I believe it varies from person to person. Some actors and actresses can indeed fall into a spiral of overconsumption, as it can be completely unconstrained. And then clearly when we do this job, all doors are open. And on the contrary, we can, and for me that was more my case, sanctify the bond between two people. I deprived myself for a long time. If you approach me in private life and have access to me, know that it's not the actress you have access to, it's the other one. It took me many years to accept certain practices in private life, which I accepted on set without any problem and with a lot of pleasure because it was out of the question that there would be any confusion. Don't ask me to dress sexy, don't ask me to tell you things or to do certain stuff. Here we are at home. If you want to hit on an actress, it's not at my place, within my bubble, in my personal environment. No, I deprived myself a lot, punished myself a lot because I had this kind of state of mind. I need to ensure respect and that the person is interested in the real me, not just their expectations based on my films. I don't want to fulfill those expectations when they don't align with who I am.
I'm not at work. What's the most twisted scenario? The most twisted scene that you've been asked to do?
Some slightly strange scenarios. I can think of 2 where I was really uncomfortable. So there's one where I was already of a certain age. I had to do a scene with a much younger man who turned out to be really bad, but bad. Really, it was a coffin with a boot. And the scenario was that he was my half-brother. They call it the sneaky step, I don't really know. Actually, I didn't like it at all. I didn't like the idea of doing stuff like with the family. And so my father would surprise us. Well, it wasn't great, but actually I would have had a blast. It's been a long day, so it would have bothered me less. The other memorable scene took place in the United States. That's what you call a good old. I wasn't aware of the policy. In short, I found myself on a flight with a very well-endowed black man. We're discussing mandingo, which involves a 40-centimeter male sexual organ. And next to him, there's a little white guy with really, the poor thing, not much to put on the table. And the idea is to ridicule him. I have to be a bit mean to him. Basically, tell him 100 times that I'm having a blast on this huge colored bees and that he's worthless. He's just a rotten little white guy. And in fact, I kept apologizing to the guy. As soon as it cut off, I would say, I'm really sorry. Really, I don't think for a second about what I'm telling you. And they would tell me, yeah, be meaner though. Go ahead, attack him a bit, you can hit him. I was like, what? I don't do that at all. And really, I wasn't feeling well. And actually, it turned out that already the actor Mandingo, he has such a member that he has a lot of trouble keeping and moreover, I had explicitly denied him any access to my ass. I had said, in fact, an ass has an end. Your ass is much too wide, much too long. I'm not going to enjoy it. It's too big. It's impossible. On the other hand, physically, a year doesn't have an end. There isn't a collar at the end that closes. So you're going to go exclusively from behind. So he wasn't happy, and so he wasn't very pleasant. The gentleman, the small white man, ultimately expressed his dissatisfaction, stating he anticipated receiving more insults than he did. He mentioned attending the event willingly to be greatly disparaged, and that if there were any women present who were not fully participating, he would rather receive compensation. I was there. Okay, listen, very good. It was a strange day too.
What's the most unlikely encounter you've had with a fan?
It's always a bit funny, but it's never unpleasant. I don't know, this afternoon at the Gare du Nord, the cops at the end of the platform asking for a photo. I get to the taxi and the guy who arranges the taxis tells me, Lisa, I can find a car right away. It's funny. It's always rather benevolent and rather cool. I think we are reflected in the image we give. And I think I managed to present myself as a human, to present myself as a woman. I think social networks have helped a lot in humanizing actresses. And I'm lucky to have been able to make that turn, which means it's never unpleasant. It's never aggressive, it's never insulting. Today, I fight for gender equality, the recognition of this profession, women's rights, and individual freedoms for all. And I think that takes precedence over the somewhat fantasy side.
Today, the man with whom you share your life, is he also someone from the world for...
You, well, it's very strange, extremely paradoxical. He was a fan.
So, you still did it?
Who would have thought, but in a very particular context. So all the fans don't start making up stories. Actually, he is a doctor, and so me, I am a nurse. During the COVID crisis, I was confined alone as I was separating at the time. As a reservist, I went on a mission in the UAS cluster. It was extremely difficult as I couldn't work according to my values and felt very alone, being confined to our hotel rooms due to the lockdown. We would come home from work with 15 deaths on our minds. A young doctor from Belgium was messaging me on Instagram about his own experience with the situation. And it's true that in a moment of weakness, I responded to him. And I didn't get the impression that he was writing to the actress, actually.
That's what I wanted to know.
But clearly he was writing to the actress. You mean...
That you scratched it in DM.
For instance, he asks if I want to take his picture to see who I'm talking to, but I tell him I'm not interested at all. I said, we won't meet, we're not friends. We support each other there, which is cool, but he was a bit pushy. And so he chased after me for a while. I ended up agreeing to go on vacation with him, separate rooms, of course. And the first night, I remember I looked at him, I told him, there will be no intimacy between you and me. That was never supposed to happen, but a few months later, there was a turnaround. I suddenly realized I was very smitten with this young man. Despite the fact that, yes, he was very fond of my character, he had watched all the videos of my character. He knew them by heart. He didn't expect us to fall in love. He didn't think I was a worthy woman, in fact. Clearly, he didn't think I was a worthy woman. That's strong, that. And in the end, he met someone, I'm quoting his words, I'm not praising myself, but very attentive, rather gentle. Outside of pregnancy and postpartum,
Rather
gentle.
After a day of shooting scenes, do you still desire physical intimacy with your partner in the evening when you return home?
It's not exactly the same security. In a typical day, we usually shoot only one scene. It's rare to do more. It can be very tiring. We give a lot of energy, but it's not at all the same. When I got home, I wanted to see my boyfriend and have some intimacy with him. It's harder for the partner to go immediately after, even if we've taken a shower and all that. I remember a partner who, no, it didn't work out the same evening. He wasn't up for it, but for me, it was the opposite. A way to truly come home.
Telling your loved ones, since we're in a society where it's still super taboo, how do you announce it? Do you announce it? How do you protect them? Because I imagine it's still quite shocking.
There wasn't any particular announcement. I come from a large family where we're all very close. We've all done a lot of stupid things. And I think clearly in my parents' minds it was just, well, she's doing something twisted again. It wasn't poorly received. Obviously it wasn't expected. Obviously it wasn't the dream choice for parents. But in the end, I was still a very free teenager and young woman. And that suddenly I stopped going to techno parties, eating extracts, having dirty nails, and that I can get an apartment, become feminine, do sports, pay hyper attention to my diet, have money and manage it well. In the end, they thought it's a necessary evil. Well, it allowed me to finance my studies, it allowed me to support my loved ones, it greatly helped me in life, and that it was obviously well received by my parents, even if at the base they did not at all consider it as a job and they were very uncomfortable with it.
Many people view prostitution as an unsanitary, demeaning, and crass profession. What do you think about that?
It's an unfortunate reality, but not representative of the entire profession. Do not mistake substance for form. We can shoot trashy things which may seem humiliating, degrading, in a place that may seem gloomy, but it can also be staging. I, for example, have shot for kink in the United States, in San Francisco, where indeed the staging makes it seem a bit trashy, even a bit grubby, a bit overdone, a bit gloomy. But it's extremely professional, we're made up, styled, staged, we've accepted the job, we're well paid, and we've validated each of the practices that will be staged, and there's a work contract, etc., etc. It's very pro. Don't confuse the substance with the form. Then, of course, let's not deny it. There are much more disgusting things that are done under terrible conditions. These are abuses due to lack of regulation in France, like poorly conducted castings in shabby hotels by unprotected men falsely claiming industry affiliation with just a camera and genitals. Actually, in countries with better regulations, these issues don't exist.
Was the panache better before?
The panache was different before because the profession has evolved with the distribution channels, with the media, with social networks. Me, when I started in the world, nobody already had Facebook, it was rare. We had a super comfortable distance with the consumers. To see an actress, one had to visit an erotic salon. She was behind a podium between two gorillas.
Your autograph.
And you were leaving. People were lining up to see us. I remember the Bourget show, 9:30 in the morning. It opened at 11 o'clock. There was already a line all around the parking lot, hundreds of people waiting. It was incredible. We were a myth, we were queens. We were rare already. We were a rare species, the 10 actress. We were doing well without having to manage our image, communication, messages, partnerships, Instagram, and everything related to women's rights. We didn't have to defend ourselves for doing what we were doing, actually. No one asked us the question. We were unreachable. And so the arrival of social networks, it was a double-edged sword because on one hand, we could become humans, we could become our own companies. We only promote ourselves as actresses, not products. Despite our high engagement rate, no brand trusts us yet. Nowadays, an actress can thrive solely through Instagram without ever stepping foot on a film set. So the profession has changed because we are no longer just an 10 actress, we are a public figure.
I wanted to know as an actress how you felt as a woman when you started.
All powerful, but it's nothing compared to today where I am beyond power. I clearly felt invincible. Let's choose a specific age. She is 25 years old. At 25 years old, I travel the world, I earn a very good living, I meet amazing people. The rock star life is still lonely, despite crossing paths with many people and receiving countless compliments on set. At the end of the day, you find yourself alone in your hotel room, faced with the reality of your solitary existence. Well, there you go, because
In the evening, you remain confined.
yeah, it's quite... These are lifestyle habits. These are lifestyle habits.
As with any job, there are good and bad days. And there, in your job, how does it go?
It's exactly the same. There are good days, there are bad days. But in essence, we are professionals. When you've committed to a job, you must do it, period. Be punctual, friendly, smiling, and respectful to your colleagues. You have to respect the producer who managed to bring all these people together to work. Afterwards, it is obvious that there are things inherent to the human body that can come into play. It's going to be a bit harsh, but you have a great sore throat. And obviously, it's super complicated to provide a ferry for 3 hours and make deep kids. It hurts. It's understandable. Teaching is a human profession above all. Or maybe you've agreed to do an adult film scene, but you've been feeling sick to your stomach for the past few days. That's not possible. Same, it's understood. The tour, it's like in all jobs. It's about explaining, saying what's happening, talking about it. In France, it's a bit more rock and roll because we don't have an agent, because we don't report to anyone, because we carry our own business. So it's maybe easier to call the night before and say, I won't come. It will be poorly perceived, but it's doable. I've worked quite a bit in the United States, and that's absolutely not doable there. You must work or pay the cancellation fine.
Do you think it's easier to be an actress than to be an actor?
It depends why. It's easier to be an actress than an actor on a set. The girl faces longer days with higher expectations about her appearance, styling, and professionalism. But the actor, he is asked for a completely different performance though. So it's still more complicated to be a man on a set. But in the end, we don't spend as much time on a set as that. And the hardest part will be social judgment. And Don Quixote is the Sanse, right?
So, the Don Juan, sorry.
Oh, come on, Don Quixote, he fucks too, right? Ah, well, certainly. No, but I think it's easier to be a guy who picks up than a girl who picks up.
Once again, that's not normal.
Topic. Oh no, that's not normal, but that's another topic.
So you were saying that you were an actress and director. You've become only a director and you've stopped being an actress. When do you switch, if changing formats?
In fact, I've been working in the field for 18 years now. It's been a while already. I was an actress between 2004 and 2013. Then I stopped and became a director. I returned to acting in 2017, completing just 3 or 4 scenes. Then I became a producer and director. Today, I no longer consider myself an actress, but it depends on each person's value scale, because I have paid pages where people subscribe to see me, where I produce myself alone, where I make videos alone, or sometimes with friends, but really it's very measured. It's been a long time since someone who isn't my partner has touched me. The furthest thing I do right now is having my feet eaten by another girl. So it's not I made the switch in 2013 because I had met someone who I really liked. So with a feeling of frustration, but a lot of love, I decided to stop. And the opportunity was given to me to direct. When I stopped, I had less than a high school diploma and became a cleaning lady. Returning from Los Angeles at 27 or 28, having just bought a house with a hefty mortgage beyond your means, becoming a cleaning lady is not a harsh shock. However, you realize how easy it would be to spend a day on a shoot and earn $1,500. But I was ready, I was ripe to enter civilian life, as we say at home. And so I became a director, I found it great. I believe it would have been regrettable to simply vanish after all the years in this field, the people I've known, the connections I've made, and the experiences I've had. Do you today, in the films you offer, have a new image of women, certainly a more current image? Then, new, I hope not, because current normally should be the image that the greatest number should have of women. Above all, women who are comfortable in their own minds. I try to keep things healthy.
I believe it remains quite closed off. I find that most of the putos that are highlighted and seen are not mounted and produced and written by women.
So indeed, there are still too few women who go behind the camera. If they do, they are often produced by production houses led by men who cater to men despite their statistics, but who struggle to break away from their line of conduct. I'm especially thinking of La Maison d'Orcel, whom I adore. We are very close, and they are my distributors. But not so long ago, I see the past, the trailer of a big movie.
It's the big movie of the year. It's the incredible thing.
2 girls in a car spend 5 minutes applying lip gloss. First of all, they are made up like stolen trucks. And it's about love. And in fact, in love, it's mostly about finding a guy who's going to screw them over well. And so I found the shortcut. Well, there you go. I tell them, but guys, we can't do this anymore. It's not possible. Not so long ago, they released the movie. At the beginning of the movie, a girl was getting dumped. It was the end of the world. And in the end, she moves into a shared apartment with Botox chicks, and she ends up in Sweet Pea in a swingers club worthy of the 80s. Such scenarios are no longer feasible.
Yeah, clearly, stop. Does a movie through the eyes of a woman, directed by a woman, make as much money as a movie written by a straight guy for straight guys?
The fact is that we're not at all in the same economy of scale. I make 2 films annually for an encrypted channel, then distributed by the Maison d'Orcel. The fact that I only make 2, I spend a lot of time writing, I spend a lot of time casting, I spend a lot of time scouting my sets. I compose all the music for my films as I consider music a character itself. I don't know who gets off on accordion, not me. It's just not possible. which means I have time to work on them, I have time to think about them, I do crafts. When you're a huge company who make 10 like that a month, it's more complicated to put meaning into it. It's more complicated to go belly up. I'm not saying that the directors, when they flop, I'm not saying that the directors, when they have their budget, their subject, they're not attentive and caring. I'm just saying it's their 15th film of the year, but we still shouldn't take away from these big production houses that distribute the small craftsmen that I am and other female directors are. But somewhere we don't care if the film does well, or we don't care if the film does well and makes money.
So I know you've become a nurse. Have you faced any discrimination? Have people made remarks to you in the context of your work?
Well, yes, I've had comments, but it's quite strange. As long as I'm in redemption, if I may say so, meaning I'm no longer an actress, it's
More the hospital.
is a place where we want to be super open, super caring. What you've done isn't a huge deal, but since it's a women's environment, we still get talked about negatively behind our backs. So coming from women, it's mostly been that. However, for men, it hasn't been as easy. I remember a doctor who made unpleasant remarks, and my colleague corrects him, says, "Oh, doctor, that's not okay." And he responds, "Yeah, it's fine. I know exactly what her problem is at Bow's Super." I also remember a nurse who took malicious pleasure in telling the whole clinic who I was, what I had done, and who comes to tap me in the morning at 7 o'clock when I start work by saying, "Listen now, everyone knows." It had been, 2 weeks since I was there, and we'll see my little one if you can hold the tide. Keep your head high, don't let go. And in fact, he was playing the ally when in fact it was him who had sold me out, that big jerk. I don't know, it was quite twisted. So often from men, there's something a little twisted, maybe a way of addressing me that can either be way too familiar or they don't dare to address me at all. Generally, in my job as a nurse, whether during my studies, in my practice, or when I was a nursing assistant before, I get by being impeccable. I am a great professional, and it's not at all pretentious to say that. I did my studies keeping a goal, that is to be the best. I didn't let myself go at all and left nothing to chance, because for people there is a kind of illegitimacy and imposture. I heard a colleague question if a woman with 100,000 Instagram followers would really wipe someone's behind, suggesting she must be wealthy. However, I assert that I am genuinely present and willing to perform this task. And with great pleasure, I wipe the ice in. It's my job.
Do you have people who were fans, who influenced you, who told you, yeah, I got into 10 because I wanted to do like you? Or even better, who wanted to find themselves on a stage with you?
If that was the case for boys, I have seen most of today's actors start their careers early on. If that had been the case, that they wanted to find themselves on a stage with me, I think I am the last person they would have told, in the sense that I am not always very accommodating, and I think that's the best way for me to cancel the scene. No, I'm not sure if many still want to pick me up these days.
We'll see when the wall falls. Yeah, so...
You're going to be disappointed, my bunny.
So have you ever had funny reactions with patients?
Yeah. With patients, there have been some funny things. So most patients don't pay any attention at all. We must not forget that we go to the hospital at a time when we are not well, when we are extremely vulnerable, when sometimes our life is in danger. I worked mainly in the intensive care unit, but also in the emergency room. So it's not a time in one's life where one can contextualize their favorite actress. However, from cardiology, and there was this old man who calls me from cardiology, and there was this old man who calls me. I arrive and he is with his grandson, and this old man looks at me and says, "I want to..." And then the grandson, he looks at me and he falls apart. He objects to Grandpa saying something specific to her. "Grandpa, please?" I said, "No, but there's no problem, sir. I'll handle it. Please leave while I help your grandfather use the commode and change his protection." Finally, "There's no problem. It's my job. And really not good, you know?" But no, you can call someone else. "You're not going to do that to me the next day with chocolates, flowers." "I'm really sorry." "The next day with chocolates, flowers." "I'm sorry. I hope he treats you better and doesn't always speak to you that way." I say, "No, but I'm actually here for that." I remember a patient who didn't want me to take care of her because her husband had told her, "But do you realize she's the actress?" And I had to give her a particularly unpleasant treatment on top of that. So she favored someone especially disagreeable to boot. So she preferred someone to put trust in me, even with the uniform. Now things, how do you imagine me? So listen, you gave me two things. How do you imagine me?
The two pieces of information you provided are unrelated. Your character was a curvy brunette Latina, and that people were calling you an Aryan queen. So when you were being called an Aryan queen?
So when you didn't recognize your laugh, but you're not laughing, didn't recognize your laugh, but you're not laughing too much either in the scenes, I
think I know who you are. I found your secret. We're in Secret Story.
At the same time, you gave me some info from Latina. I don't know, but I'm really looking forward to it.
You?
Meet. I'm really looking forward to meeting you.
Hi there.
Thank you for this exchange.
It was nice. We had much more to discuss.
Know you?
It's good since no one described her as vulgar, wearing a short skirt, heavy makeup, and having a large bust. Nice to meet you. She has nothing to do with it. Ah, damn, but so funny, so good. Who are you thinking of? Lisa Monet. Oh no, she is so vulgar. Sorry? I don't know how to say it. Help!